First guest tonight is a one-of-a-kind movie star. He is beloved all around the world. He's part of the all-star cast of Argylle, which opens in theaters Friday. Please welcome Samuel L. Jackson.
I don't want to, lord it over you because you see me or I'm famous. I'm famous because you think I'm.
Joining us from their home in Los Angeles, California, the Samuel L. Jackson.
Father, a husband, a son. I'm a good person with all that. I'm a citizen. I pay my taxes. I've never been arrested. I believe in education. I believe in one's, treating man the way you want man to treat you. Yeah, I'm a movie star to you. To me, I'm just a guy with an interesting job. It's not often I get to come to shows I actually watch.
Yeah. I was looking at you was born 20 years before the Civil Rights Act in 1964.
Mm-hmm,
so
48.
Yeah. So how different did the world look then as opposed to now?
I grew up during American apartheid. I lived in Chattanooga, Tennessee. They had signs, I knew where I could go, where I couldn't go.
Did Tamron Hall really get iced out of daytime TV after a live segment where she went a shade too far with Samuel L. Jackson? The headline writes itself. A host leaning into a spicy question, a legend answering with a glance that feels like a verdict, and a network suddenly staring at its own reflection. Before we dive, hit like, tap subscribe, and ring the bell. If you want the internet's biggest whispers sorted into what's confirmed, what's twisted, and what's flat out theater, this is the channel that actually does the homework. It starts the way most media storms start now, with a freeze frame and a caption that does more work than the clip.
Oh, poor me, oh, poor me, oh, poor me. Then I get high and I forgot about oh, poor me.
Yeah.
But for me, I have a direct correlation between getting sober.
The camera sits on two people who know exactly how television works. The rhythm is polite, the smiles polished, the small talk moving like a well-oiled machine. And then a question lands with the kind of weight producers secretly hope for. It doesn't have to be rude to be sharp. It just has to be personal. Age, relevance, legacy. The trio that turns a casual couch chat into a pressure test.
It's probably going to disappoint you in an interesting sort of way.
Okay.
Because when people ask me to speak to people about my experience or about, what all that was, it's hard for me because I had a great time.
I
was balling out until they found me passed out.
There's a pause. Jackson doesn't need to raise his voice to communicate a boundary. He never has. He can say do your homework without saying it out loud. He can let the air do the talking. From that pause, the internet builds a tower. One angle becomes a montage. The caption grows claws. One channel claims a walk-off. Another uploads a sped-up cut with dramatic beeps laid under every silence like alarms. A third swears network execs had emergency calls before the credits rolled.
The legend, the icon, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
Morning.
Good morning.
Do you like getting up this early first and foremost?
I'm up this early every day.
Okay.
Actually, if I'm working, I'm definitely up because I'm headed to set by 5:36.
Viewers pass along 10-second loops until the 10 seconds begin to feel like a full hour. Someone adds the word ban to the title and watch time jumps because now there's a penalty to match the supposed offense. The story stops being about what happened on that stage and becomes about what happens to a person when a clip becomes a verdict.
I don't want to, lord it over you because you see me or I'm famous. I'm famous because you think I'm famous. Don't ask my characters. Don't ask Nick Fury to be your role model. Don't ask Mace Windu to be your role model. Don't ask Jules Winfield to be your role model. If you're talking about Samuel Jackson, I'm a professional. I show up at work on time. I know my lines. I hit my marks. And I treat the other actors and the crew members with respect.
There's a reason this particular rumor found gasoline. Samuel L. Jackson doesn't play for tension, he plays for truth. He knows how to keep the tempo exactly where he wants it. The moment his eyes lock, even a neutral question can sound like it wandered into the wrong room. People have seen him do it in a dozen different contexts. Slow, calm, precise. He trims the fat from a conversation with one sentence and leaves the rest to gravity.
I had to go back and start and say, well, where am I in the midst of all that? How many people have I created to cover this thing to the point that maybe I've gotten lost in who I am, and I don't know.
So do you still have days when you're on set where you're?
I have days, or some days it's B, some days it's.
That's not scandal. That's presence. And presence is what makes a rumor feel real even when facts are sitting in the next room with the lights on. On the other side of the camera sits a host who's made a career balancing warmth and edge. Daytime is a weird arena. It's all teacups and pressure cookers. You're supposed to go friendly, but friendly gets forgettable, and forgettable gets canceled.
A loving community and people who make you understand that, you know, you are great people, and there's a reason that they do this to you. You know, that they try to keep you back because you are the richness of what the world is. You know, that you offer something that they don't have, and they know they can't have it, but they want to control it. So, you know, you listen to those people, you have the right teachers.
So the game is to dip the toe into the water where pop culture and personal history meet, then pull back before you hit the drop-off. Audiences can feel when the toe goes just a hair too far. They don't necessarily hear the words, they hear the motive underneath. Are you curious? Or are you fishing for a reaction? That's the pivot that takes a normal follow-up and turns it into she disrespected him.
And you're in a rich environment of creative people that share the same goals. Everybody was trying to get somewhere, or everybody had a different idea about how it was going to happen. And there was enough going on, or enough people moving. It's like we're doing a play, and all of a sudden Denzel is like, he plucked out, and he's gone. It's just like, okay, so Denzel got their TV show, now he's doing movies. Okay, boom. Then he's doing another play, and Morgan gets plucked out. Boom, he's gone.
The larger drama lives outside the studio, in comment sections that double as courtrooms. Viewers debate what counts as respect for a man who's outlasted trends, trophies, and the noise that chews up lesser careers. They stack his filmography like a fortress and say the host should have come in with soft gloves.
The theater, and I loved acting, and being here in a rich community of creative people is invigorating. We went to each other's shows, we watched each other work, we went to auditions together, we talked, there was no enmity, everybody was, you know, great.
Others argue that legends don't need protection. If anything, the tougher the question, the better the answer. The room splits. Hot takes multiply. And in the middle of that tug of war sits a freeze frame that can be bent into whatever shape you need it to be. People keep asking why this one stuck when plenty of daytime dust-ups vanish in a day. It's because the story fits a pattern audiences already trust. A veteran with decades of receipts versus a platform that survives on moments. Jackson's brand is secure. He can walk into any franchise and steady the camera by standing still. You don't dictate terms to someone like that.
I was looking at you was born 20 years before the Civil Rights Act in 1964. So how,
48.
Yeah. So how different did the world look then as opposed to now?
I grew up during American apartheid. I lived in Chattanooga, Tennessee. They had signs, you know. I knew where I could go, where I couldn't go, what I should do, what I shouldn't do, you know, all those things. And you kind of look at life and go, okay. And then when I hear him say it now, you know, make America great again, I go, what are they talking about?
If a host looks like they tried, even slightly, to fit a legend into a soundbite, viewers take it personally. They won't admit it, but the reaction is tribal. Protect the icon, punish the tone. Once the narrative catches, the add-ons arrive. Threads claim certain segments were cut from rebroadcast. Bloggers hint at a tense call between production and network. A podcaster says a sponsor asked questions about direction. None of those items need proof to do damage, they just need rhythm. Meanwhile, compilation channels splice in older moments from other shows where a guest pushed back on a leading question. They label those as Exhibit A, Exhibit B, and suddenly a host's entire catalog is framed as a pattern. That's how a single interview becomes a referendum on a career. But make no mistake, the legend on the other side is not fragile. Samuel L. Jackson's quietest move carries more gravity than an entire segment built for fireworks. When he chooses to answer with restraint, it reads as control, not retreat. Viewers understand that language. They can tell when someone's holding the line without making a scene. It's the difference between noise and authority. That's why the rumor never needed proof to travel. It only needed to rhyme with what people already believe about him, that he sets the tone in any room he enters. As the weeks rolled, content farms got busy. Titles escalated from awkward exchange to meltdown to banned. Comment sections filled with minute-by-minute breakdowns, like referee reports after a playoff game. Some fans timed the space between questions and answers as if measuring intent with a stopwatch. Others swore they saw the host smile tighten half an inch. Micro-expressions became exhibits. Posture became motive. The internet took a human interaction and freeze-dried it into a conspiracy kid's lunchbox. What went missing in all that noise is how daytime really survives. Not on single spikes, but on trust. A host can be tough and a host can be soft. The ones who last are the ones who make guests feel like the show is a safe place to be honest without being cornered. The second audiences sense gotcha energy, the brand cracks. And brands in daylight don't break clean, they smudge. You don't notice it in a week. You notice it in a season. Now let's talk about what viewers swear they heard. According to the loudest retellings, the host slid in a barbed question about age and the staying power of household names. Jackson let silence do the first answer. She tried again, framing it as industry chatter. He finally cut through with a line that felt like a pin drop. The temperature in the room went brittle. The applause was thin. And from there, the edit did all the work. A cut to a wide shot, a flash to the clock, then the final image, Jackson unhooking his mic, standing up and letting the chair rebound behind him while he leaves without a backward glance. That's the scene being passed around. That's the myth people keep hitting replay on. Here's the thing about myths. They prefer clean lines. Real life, especially television, is messy. Producers can make any wide shot look like a departure. Guests remove mics at the end of segments every single day. A lingering silence can be the break before a reset, not evidence of disaster. But the rumor didn't want nuance. It wanted a headline that felt like justice. By the time Nuance woke up and got dressed, the train had already left the station, carrying 100 versions of the same story with slightly different coats of paint. As the discourse kept unspooling, older flashpoints from both careers got pulled into orbit. People remembered the times Jackson took a sloppy question and sharpened it into something watchable. They remembered when he turned a live confusion into a masterclass in keeping your composure while making a point. Those clips weren't rumors. Those were moments. And when viewers put those next to the new narrative, the conclusion wrote itself. He doesn't need to raise his voice. He just needs to raise the bar, and the rest of the room hears it. Meanwhile, this conversation started morphing to one about how audiences want interviews to work now. Do viewers want comfort or confrontation? Do they want warmth or candor? The answer is messy. They want both. They want the truth, but they don't want blood. They want a host who can ask what people are thinking, but still make the guest feel like a person, not a prop. That's a tightrope. If a foot slips, even a little, the internet doesn't say sorry. And then the thumbnails start multiplying like rabbits. By the time the wave hit maximum height, secondary claims started buzzing around the main event like satellites. Whisper chatter said a certain segment would not be revisited in reruns. Someone else said a booking team had to smooth feathers with a call the next morning. Another thread declared a particular publicist had moved a client from the show's shortlist to the long list. None of these items came with receipts you could hold up to the light. But together they created the illusion of smoke. And on the internet, smoke is as good as fire if you repeat it enough times. Cut to the part of the story nobody wants to talk about, consequences. Even a rumor can bend public perception a few degrees. Not slam it off a cliff, just tilt it. And when your job runs on trust and perception, a few degrees is a lot. Viewers start reading warmth as calculated. They start hearing curiosity as a trap. They start watching a harmless laugh and thinking, that's nervous. That's how careers drift, not drop. Slowly, then suddenly. Now the expositions, the offshoots everyone kept dragging into the narrative once this got traction. One thread claimed the live tape, in its raw form, showed a second exchange during the commercial block where the host tried to reframe the question and Jackson laid down a final boundary. Cool and flat. Another thread insisted a producer stepped in with a time cue to pivot, only for the pivot to land like a deflection. A third insisted an associate on the floor heard a line that never made it to air because the mics were already down. These are the kind of hallway stories that thrive because you can't prove them and you can't disprove them. They feel like puzzle pieces even when the puzzle might not exist. Related rumors about the people involved started spinning with their own momentum. For the host, there were whispers about backstage tension in prior seasons, a guest who left less than thrilled, and a producer who preferred softer swings. For Jackson, there were recycled tales about how he expects preparation from anyone sitting across from him, and how he can end a question with a look if it's clear the homework wasn't done. None of that hurts his mystique. If anything, it feeds it. For a legend, myth is insulation. For a daytime show, myth is friction. Here's the quiet part that matters. Stories like this carry two truths at once. First, people want to believe that respect is a currency, and that if you spend it wrong on the wrong person, you pay full price on camera. Second, audiences aren't naive. They know when a clip is doing too much. They can enjoy the theater and still admit it might be theater. That's why this rumor didn't just trend, it lingered. It lived in the overlap between what felt earned and what felt exaggerated. And that overlap is the most clickable place on the internet. Before we close, put a pin in this. The bans, blacklists, and behind-the-curtain punishments tied to this story exist mostly as whispers. They get repeated as if they're minutes from a meeting nobody can actually quote. They sound authoritative because the internet learned to talk like boardrooms. If you've heard that a final decision came down in the dead of night, or that a permanent door quietly closed, know this. Those claims circulate without verified confirmation. They live as rumors and speculations, not official outcomes. Keep that in mind when a title screams banned like it's printing a court order. What does feel solid is the lesson. Television is negotiation. Fame is history. When they meet, the strongest person in the room is the one who can slow the tempo without looking like they're pulling the brakes. Jackson has made a career doing exactly that, on camera, off camera, in rooms where the stakes are money and in rooms where the stakes are face. If a host approaches that energy without the perfect balance of curiosity and care, it won't explode. It will freeze. And a freeze frame can carry farther than a flame if the caption knows what it's doing. So here's where we land. The internet crowned a moment and told the world to kneel. It pointed at a pause and labeled it a takedown. It watched a guest remove a mic and called it a walk-off. It took a whisper about consequences and stamped it with capital letters. And it worked because the players fit the roles. The unflappable legend and the host walking a tightrope over a canyon of expectations. If you've ever wondered how rumor becomes memory, you just watched it happen in real time. If you want more deep dives that separate the viral version from the verified version, without killing the drama, just cutting the noise, make sure you're subscribed, drop a like, and tell me in the comments. Did this feel like a genuine line crossing, or did the internet do what it always does? Inflate, amplify, and hand out verdicts with no appeals? Your take shapes the next investigation.